It's David. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing this Lionel Lioncheif Norfolk Southern Tier 4 train set. This is a set I've had for a few years now, and I've had some good experiences with and some not so good experiences with. I'll talk a little bit about that more in the video, but kind of long story short, the cars in the set are great, they're phenomenal, I really like them. The engine, though, not so much. But I'll get into that more, we'll go over each thing, I'll talk about what I like in the set and what I don't really like. But anyways, let's get started. It includes a Lioncheif Norfolk Southern ET44C4, a Norfolk Southern auto rack, Norfolk Southern high-cube boxcar, and a TTX well car. Last thing before we get into this review, I'm actually going to start by reviewing the cars first, start with the good, and then we'll move on to the engine with some of the not so good. Typically, I like to keep my videos positive. I don't like to complain a lot in them, so I want to kind of keep this video positive before I talk about some of the negatives. But anyways, let's get started. Starting with the first car in the set is this Norfolk Southern TTX auto rack, and this is a really nice car. Now, this is not a scale car by any means. In real life, these auto racks are massive. In fact, this is about only, I would say, half the length that a real O-scale auto rack would be. But of course, you're not going to get a massive scale auto rack with the set because it wouldn't be able to run on the O36 curves that come with it. Other than the semi-scale size, this is actually a really nice quality car. First thing about it that I like, one of the things that I really like about all the rolling stock in the set is they all have die-cast metal sprung trucks, which are really nice. It's kind of the peak of Lionel's rolling stock is when they have the die-cast metal trucks. That shows that it's a higher quality piece. And overall, it's got really nice construction. It's not very flimsy, and it's painted very well. I really like how the yellow and the silver stands out. It's got a really nice modern look. One of the reasons I wanted this set so bad is because of these modern cars in it. They add a different variety to my collection, something I didn't really have as much. And so it's one of the reasons why I like the cars in the set so much. Other than the really nice construction and painting, it's got all these awesome graphics on it with the TTX logo, as well as the Norfolk Southern logo up here, and lots of markings all over. The car also features lots of really nice detail. The one thing that I've always liked about these auto racks is this kind of corrugated roof that it has all the way around the top, as well as you can see the actual slots in the kind of the steel structure of the auto rack. You can see, you can actually see through them. It's kind of hard to see on video, but they are hollow, or you can see into the car. I also like the kind of ladder structures on the side, and some of the other detail along the side of it. The end of the cars also have lots of nice detail with all those molded in rivets and the molded in door details, as well as all that printing. Overall, this is a really nice car, and I'd like to get more of them in the future. The car in the set is this Norfolk Southern high-cube boxcar. Now, this is a pretty standard Lionel car with all plastic construction, but it does again feature the nice die-cast trucks. And Lionel's been making these high-cube boxcars for years. They started back in the NPC era, and from what I've heard, those cars were not the greatest quality. They were very light, and they did not really operate too well in long trains. This, though, is a lot different than that. First of all, the graphics on it are great. I really like the color of it. It's very simplistic with this kind of brown color, but I think that's something that a lot of people kind of like and stuff, and I actually enjoy too, is having a more simplistic looking car. It really, it's realistic, you know what I mean? When you go out and see trains in the real railroads, you don't see a ton of really vibrant looking rolling stock. You see a lot more muted colors, you see stuff like this. And so I think it adds a lot of more realism and depth to your train. Another thing is that, again, it's got the die-cast trucks, it's got nice plastic construction, and it just feels like a more quality piece than some of these older Lionel high-cube box cars. This is actually the second Lionel high-cube box car I have. I have another Norfolk Southern one. That's a First Responders car that I got in my Norfolk Southern First Responders set. But I like these cars. They're pretty nice. They look good in a modern train. Again, not a scale piece, but that's okay. If you're running semi-scale stuff, they look great behind any semi-scale engine. But yeah, I really like this car. I think it's a great addition in the set. It's got lots of nice printing and lots of nice molded in detail. The doors open, as you see. They're kind of tight, but it doesn't really want to open. Well, they do open. You just have to take my word for it. But yeah, lots of nice molded in rivet detail, good printing, and overall a really solid car. Now we come to the last car in the set, this TTX well car. And this is probably my favorite car in the whole set. First of all, as you can see, it's very detailed. For a semi-scale car, it's got all sorts of kind of generators and separately priced brake wheels and ladders and all sorts of detail. Plus, it's got these really nicely printed removable containers. These are nice. Again, not a scale piece like all the other stuff in the set, but I really like this well car. Again, these are something that Lionel's been making for a few years now, so it's pretty easy to get a bunch of them if you look on eBay. So that's something I plan on doing, is getting a nice string of these going. Anyways, these containers are nice. These are just, simple molded. Not the ends actually do open, though the doors open, and there's two different kinds. First of all, you have this kind of ribbed kind with these notches in it. As you can see, it's kind of corrugated, and it's got this MOL logo with the alligator on it, or crocodile. I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but it's a pretty neat design. And you've got this other blue one. This is kind of a smooth riveted design with that logo on it again. But it looks nice. Again, a piece of modern rolling stock that you see a lot in the real world. So it's nice to have that replicated on my layout. Anyways, the car itself is a really nice piece. It's really long for a semi-scale car. It actually has a little bit of overhang when you run it on 036 curves, I've noticed. But it's not too bad. It can run it easily on my layout. Die-cast metal trucks again, which gives it a nice weight because there's really not a lot to the car. It being a well car, that's by design. It also has an end-of-train device on it. Now, it doesn't light up or anything, but it looks nice. Maybe it's a little oversized, but it sits right on the coupler, and it's a great way to end off a modern train because you're not going to use a caboose on a train this new, so having an end-of-train device is nice. Also, in the middle of the car, this is something that I didn't expect them to do on a car like this, on a lower quality, but having the actual cutouts so that you can see down to the track is a super cool detail that I don't think they really needed necessarily, but I think it's really awesome that they included it, because it's one of the things about these well cars that I really like. They're kind of like the embodiment of like the kind of modern railroading, where it's kind of the slimmest and most efficient form of car that you could get. But overall, it's a really nice piece. Again, a great way to end off the set. Lots of great printing all over it with the TTX logo. Something I see all the time on trains. When I see trains, are these well cars with these container stacks in them. So I'm very happy to have one as part of this set. Now that we've talked a bunch about the rolling stock, let's talk about the engine of this set, starting with what I like about it. Alright, so the first thing that I really like about this engine is the way it looks. I mean, this is a pretty good looking engine. It's got some nice separately applied detail, as well as lots of really nicely defined molded in detail. Really nice printing and paint job. I mean, it's a pretty simple paint job, but the printing areas are really nicely defined with tons of placards and all sorts of information all over the place. And one of the biggest things I really like about this is for a semi-scale engine, I really like the proportions on it. It doesn't look too squished into areas where it looks awkward. A lot of Lionel's semi-scale stuff kind of has this, this very distinct look to it, but this still has a pretty kind of scale look to it, I would say, although it's not even close to being scale. It's very small, obviously. It has a nicely slimmed down appearance. And overall, I think it looks good. Like you've got lots of printing that's nice, the number and the kind of NS logos, even the name of the make of the locomotive, the ET44C4, which is cool, as well as lots of information placards and stuff. So that kind of is nice, as well as I really like the yellow safety striping on the steps. Kind of makes them pop. So overall, this engine looks really nicely. Another thing I really like about it is the sound set in this engine. It sounds like they used a lot of the audio from their scale legacy GE locomotives, like their GEVOs and stuff, the S44s and such, and that gives it a really nice sound. The horn and the crew talk sounds and the whole startup sequence is really awesome for a Lioncheif locomotive. So those two things are some of the things that I really, really like about this engine. All right, now let's talk about some of the things I really don't like about it. And first of all is going to be the quality seems to have been kind of lackluster on it. There's a few areas where it seems to me that they kind of cut corners. First of all, I don't like how the headlights, they don't really have lenses. In fact, they're more like these LEDs just sticking out the nose. They're really ugly, kind of, the way they stick out, and it looks kind of cheap. Another thing is that these truck side frames, they're plastic, and they're also kind of just, they feel cheap, and they don't really seem all too detailed. Lionel's other, like their GP38s and GP40s and stuff, their side trucks are plastic, but they're a little bit, I don't know exactly how to put it, but these almost feel kind of like smooth and squished. The GP40s and stuff have a little bit more defined detail in their trucks. I don't know, these to me just seem kind of cheap and like they kind of just sit next to the wheels. They're not really part of it. And then the biggest thing for me is that the quality control on it, really, it's not very great. I got this engine and it didn't work. Immediately out of the box, it really wouldn't run. It would move for a second and then it would stop moving and then it would move up again. And I never got it fixed because the place that we ordered it from, it was some drop shipping, not reputable business, so I couldn't, and by the time we kind of stopped talking to them about it, the warranty had expired and I couldn't send it back to Lionel for repairs. And so I've kind of dragged my feet on it. I haven't done anything about it. I opened it up recently to kind of see what was wrong with it. And I noticed a few things. First of all, there's a bunch of screws just loose on the inside that I found out came from securing down the big radiator section in the back. And there was like only one or two actually holding it on there, so I don't know how that really slipped by. Plus, one of the brackets holding on one of the boards was like significantly bent, and so I'm not sure what the deal with that was. The thing is that I've heard these engines have an issue with their gearing, that they kind of don't really mesh together well, or that they kind of encounter issues when operating, and that might be part of the issue with my locomotive because it has a really strange issue. So it will not run on the straightaways. It'll run for a second, then it'll lose power, and then it'll keep going, and then it'll lose power, restart, and stuff, and it doesn't really work. But if I were to start it on a curve, and it was going through a curve, it would run perfectly through the curve. But as soon as the truck straightened out, it stops running. And I have absolutely no clue what would be causing that. But yeah, so I've really never been able to run this locomotive. But overall, kind of my gripes with it is that quality on it seems to be lacking. It seems to be like they cut corners in a few places, and it suffered because of that. It really is a shame because this is a nice looking locomotive, and I know I could just bring it in to get it fixed. I just haven't yet because it's not free. You know, it's going to cost money to get it repaired, and for an engine that kind of on close inspection is kind of cheap and stuff, like, and it's not like a cheap piece. It looks nice. It does look nice. It has some great features, definitely some redeeming qualities. But overall, to me, it seems like Lionel really cut corners on it. So it's kind of a shame to see that that's the way it went with this set. Overall, this set has a lot of good and a lot of not so good. I think the rolling stock is really the shining star in the set. I really like the rolling stock. It's got a lot of nice quality to it. But I think Lionel cut corners with the engine, and the set suffers because of that. But anyways, if you like this video, please consider leaving a like or comment. And if you want to see more stuff like this, watch the other train videos on my channel and subscribe for future videos. Thanks.